hit that line, keep on going. Drop it down to the floor. I give a cheer, ride, never.
All right, what is up? Welcome. Bootleg Podcast, episode 4-ish. I think it's 4. Episode 4. Definitely 4. Unless it's episode 1 for you. If you're a brand new podcast listener of the Bootleg, then I will try super hard not to suck for like the next hour. I'm going to definitely get to the Urban Meyer saga. I don't really want to. I don't really have much to say about it at this point, but I do think as a football podcast, it'd be weird if on this day of this week of this month, I didn't say anything. So I'll give you my 2 cents. Not going to act like there's more there than that. What I will talk about ad nauseum today, however, is the Arkansas Razorback football program, which had a huge weekend of recruiting for Chad Morris and his staff on the heels of a big old barbecue they had up there in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which apparently is the new cool thing to do for Power 5 programs. At least I assume that it's a new thing because I've literally never even heard of this before. Now all of a sudden, everybody's having a barbecue or a cookout, I guess, depending on where you're located geographically and what term you prefer. But in any case, I'm sure that it's full of brats and steak and chicken, and maybe the menu varies from program to program depending on the athletics budget. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I do know, without a doubt, that Arkansas was serving some good old grass-fed beef, and it was effective, to say the least. A handful of guys committed over the span of like 6 days. I think they're up at like 7 or 8 total now in the last week and a half. So huge weekend for Arkansas. And it's just 8 months removed from a 4-8 season and firing Brett Bielema. But I'm sure all of that is purely coincidental. So I've got Nikki Chavanelle, the managing editor of HawgBeat, the Rivals Arkansas site. She'll be on to talk about the Razorbacks and how much that she loves living in my hometown and making me real jealous on Instagram. Also, it's August, which means we are officially just days, several of them, yes, but still just days, from the first live FloFootball event of the season, the inaugural Freedom Bowl, presented by Battle, which will be held in Greater Atlanta, Georgia, in a little community known as Milton, Georgia. And so I'm going to start dropping some interviews with key players and coaches and otherwise who will be watching in what is quite honestly one of the best high school showcase events of the year, and it's in just its first year. It's an event that has a massive future that could potentially hit both coasts, spoiler alert. And to get that started today, I'm going to go with Jordan Yates. He's a nephew of former Houston Texans quarterback TJ Yates. When is he former? I think he's former. Hey, TJ, if you are still on the Texans roster, that's my bad, man. Former North Carolina great TJ Yates. How about that? Let's go with that. Anyway, Jordan is TJ's nephew, and he's also a highly regarded dual-threat quarterback prospect who's headed for Georgia Tech. And let's do Tyler Goodson, all-purpose bag from North Gwinnett, also in Georgia, last year's 7A Georgia State champ, in fact, who recently committed to Iowa and has, I kid you not, been compared to everyone from Akram Wadley to Le'Veon Bell in the past month. But before we get to the fun stuff, back to Urban Meyer. The whole thing just pisses me off, and I do not understand it. I don't understand how a man could, first of all, how a man could ever think that it was acceptable to put his hands on his wife. Ever. So, based on the photographs and the text messages that we've all seen now, fuck you, Zach Smith. I also don't understand how a man like Urban Meyer, who, in spite of everything that happened at Florida, which is, I guess, an entirely separate conversation, claims to stand for all the right things, and if you judge him based solely on his time at Ohio State, it's tough to argue. The Ohio State program, at least as far as we could tell on the outside looking in, has been a tight ship, and Urban Meyer has been, for all intents and purposes, the model of discipline and doing the right thing, or so we've been told. So what I don't understand is how a man like that, a man like Urban Meyer, who claims to stand for all the right things, could jeopardize his entire legendary freaking career, all in the name of protecting some loser who beat the shit out of the mother of his children. I can't make that line up in my brain. I can't figure that out. I'm sorry. As I'm recording this, I don't know what Urban knows, right? Like, we don't know what Urban knows. But courtesy of Brett McMurphy, who, side note, is writing articles on Facebook, can someone please put Brett on a real website? In fact, Brett, if you want to write for FloFootball, bro, be my guest. I'll throw you a few dollars. Not a lot, like literally a few dollars, like $3 or $4, but you can write for FloFootball.com and break news on an actual website. You don't have to do it on Facebook. Anyway, I digress. Brett posts on Facebook that Urban's wife, Shelly, knew. And it's text messages. It's clear. Shelly knew. I mean, talking to the victim. And I cannot imagine that she just decided not to tell Urban. I mean, listen, there are often communication breakdowns in my own marriage between myself and my wife. But if I was employing a guy who was beating the hell out of a friend of Katie's, or not even a friend, just someone who had told Katie, I promise you she would let me know in no uncertain terms. That is not a thing that she would just decide, he's so busy, he's got so much going on. So I don't know, I can't with that. I'm trying real hard to give Urban the benefit of the doubt just because that's more convenient, right? But that doesn't make that the right thing to do. I don't know how Shelly can know and Urban could possibly not know. So I don't get it. I don't get why Urban brought this dude to Ohio State to begin with. I don't get why he kept him there. And I don't get why he lied to anyone about any of it. It makes no sense to me. And literally, that's pretty much the entirety of what I have to say about it, aside from the fact that it just sucks for the players. I mean, you only get to do college once. And this is a team that had national championship aspirations. This is a team that was coming off a good year last year, looking for a great year this year. And it just sucks for them because this is a hell of a distraction going into fall camp and going into a season where they had a lot of high hopes. And so for the kids, for the guys, it just sucks, man. All right, that's enough of that. Tonight is the Hall of Fame game. And while some of you may tell me that it is just a glorified scrimmage, I would tell you that I don't care. I'm really super jacked about it. And yes, I'll watch the entire game. And yes, I'll stick with it even when it's a bunch of 3s and 4s who won't be on anybody's team this year. I do not care. It is football. It is Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, and it's on my TV. And by God, I'll be in front of that TV for the entirety of the game. And I'm also pretty jacked to see the job that Chad Morris and his staff, Joe Craddock, Justin Stepp, Mark Smith, etc., are doing in Arkansas right now. Once again, major big weekend for them last weekend. And then followed that with commitments from Traylon Burks and Adonis Ote this week. So that gives me a great excuse to bring the talented Nikki Chavanelle onto the pod to talk Hogs and talk Fayetteville. So let's get to that. All right. We are joined by the great Nikki Chavanelle, formerly of SMU Rivals, now the managing editor of HawgBeat, which makes her something of a Chad Morris whisperer at this point. Nikki, welcome. What's up?
Hey, Kolby. Good to talk to you. I am a Chad Morris whisperer at this point, I'd say, compared to, anyone else on the beat. I've covered him the longest. I take pride in that.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Anything that listen, I grew up in Northwest Arkansas. I'm not too secretive about my Arkansas Razorback fandom. If you pull up at my house in Austin, Texas, there's an Arkansas flag out front because my wife is an alum. And even still, any kind of Arkansas football question that comes up on August 2nd, 2018, I would have to defer to you.
Yeah, I'm still catching up team-wise and stuff, and I'm really excited for fall camp to get to know the team better. But recruiting-wise, I'd say I kind of know what's going on better than anybody, probably.
I'd say. So, fun fact, we were actually going to do this. Today's a Thursday. We were going to do this yesterday, which, as you know, was a Wednesday. And we couldn't because right when we sat down to do it, Adonis Ote decided that he was going to change his mind for the third time in 30 minutes and commit to the Hogs. And Nikki was on the inside, so she knew about it, so she had to take care of it. Can you please explain to me what the hell happened with Adonis Ote?
Okay, So last weekend, I had been hearing that, Adonis Ote, he was already scheduled to commit August 1st, so yesterday. But he went over to Auburn, as all these schools have their pre-fall camp barbecues and little last-minute events before the dead period began yesterday. And so he went over to Auburn, and everyone thought, okay, this is it. He's gonna do it. He's gonna commit there. And then, I don't know, a little bird told me on Saturday, no, they're not going to take him. And so I, reached out to some people, and I heard that Arkansas was immediately after that turning up the heat. And so yesterday morning, they were calling him all morning, calling his dad, telling him, you are number one guy. You won't regret it. Pull the trigger. And so in between about 30 minutes, they convinced him to pull the trigger on Arkansas. And he is now, according to Rivals, the class's top-rated commit so far. So pretty good deal for them.
Yeah, good deal for them. I don't know. I would just be nervous, I feel like, if my top-rated player seemed like he just kind of decided on a whim on a random Wednesday to commit to my program.
Well, he was already kind of pondering an official visit during the season, but he did want to keep that August 1st commitment date. So everyone was like, well, if he hasn't taken an official visit, he's probably not going to pick Arkansas. But he had already been to campus. He talks to Coach Mark Smith, who is the cornerbacks coach. He talks to him all the time. Obviously, Auburn is in a little bit better of shape as a program right now, so that is one thing that they had going for him. But I don't think he really, liked the Arkansas staff any less. And so when Auburn made it clear that he wasn't a top priority for them, he was like, well, Arkansas loves me. I like them. Let's do it.
Yeah, listen, I know that the head coach doesn't often come, seriously into play for a lot of these prospects. They're being recruited by a position coach, and that's who they form the bigger relationship with. But if we're comparing Chad Morris against Gus Malzahn for the services of Adonis Ote, it's not too surprising to me that he would be like, I feel like Fayetteville might be the better option.
Well, to be honest, Arkansas is really stepping it up because Chad Morris himself is a lead recruiter on a ton of guys. Like, he FaceTimes guys all the time himself, and you don't see that a lot with other head coaches because they frankly have a lot going on. But if you want to go from they were number 61 in the recruiting rankings in 2018, and there were a lot of factors that went into that, but if you want to make that jump and they're now number 20, you got to have your head coach talking to all these guys and making sure they feel wanted, and they're doing a really good job of that right now.
Well, he's doing big things. In fact, I saw actually on HawgBeat yesterday, I was browsing, and there was an article on there about how this class may well end up being the best class Arkansas has had at any point in the Rivals era. Yeah,
and it's pretty crazy. Everything right now is just kind of sped up because of the early signing period in December. And I think social media is having a big impact on kids and their decisions these days because, on Saturday, I think there were probably like 18 to 20 four-star guys that all committed on the same day. So when you see that as a recruit, you're like, oh, my God, my spot is, going to get taken by someone else. I should just pull the trigger. And so Arkansas is really capitalizing on that, and that's how they got, probably their best defensive line class in the history of the program because suddenly spots were getting filled up, and they ended up opening up more spots in their class for D linemen because they're not going to turn away four-star guys. But, Eric Gregory flipped from Memphis last Monday, and he's a four-star, and so that forced another four-star DN to also commit. And then they're going to probably get another defensive tackle on Friday. So it's just the whole climate has kind of changed, and it's been really interesting to watch, and a lot of that has to do with all this social media hype, and they're really riding the momentum train pretty hard.
Well, and that staff in particular, and I didn't so much. Is that Zeke?
Yeah, that's my dog and my sister's dog. So okay. I'm home in Houston right now.
Okay, tell Zeke I said what's up.
Okay.
I didn't notice the Morris staff being. I'm sure they were. I probably just wasn't paying attention, but I didn't notice them being so adept at social media while at SMU. But like from the moment that they arrived in Fayetteville, they have been crushing it on Twitter. Like I haven't seen, and I follow quite a few staffs on social media because, you know, of my day job, and I haven't seen a staff as effective as they've been just in the last 8 months.
Well, the thing is, nowadays, they're with the rules of, you know, the NCAA and what coaches are allowed to do, they're allowed to interact with kids a lot more. And just being more interactive on social media, you actually get to know the prospects personally a lot better because you see what they're liking and what they're retweeting and what their interests are. And so that's helping them a lot. And then, obviously, I mean, yesterday when Otay was about to commit, I already knew about it, but about an hour before, it wasn't much of a surprise because all the coaches these days have started tweeting out GIFs for every commit, and it's freaking hilarious. And I think everybody loves it, whether you're an Arkansas fan or not, because it's just, I mean, they're really changing the game, and I think other schools are going to start following in their footsteps pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're doing a good job. So for those of you who don't know, and Nikki, correct me if my math is off, because I feel like they're getting a commitment like every 5 minutes here of late, but Arkansas picked up 5 commits in 6 days. I guess Otay would have made that, 6 and 7 days?
Okay, so they had 5 and 6 days, and then they picked up Traylon Burks on Monday, so that was 6 in about 7 or 8 days, and now they've had 7 in about a week and a half. And then they have another guy deciding on Friday and another guy deciding on Monday. So it's been kind of a hectic 2 weeks, you could say.
That's crazy. The guy deciding on Friday, who is that?
That is a defensive tackle out of Mansfield Legacy. His name is Enoch Jackson. And the important thing to note about him is he's a 6-foot defensive tackle. So he's just like a really solid guy compared to the other 2 defensive tackles they already have in the class, and that's Marcus Miller and Carl Williams. They're like 6'4", you know, real lanky guys. But Enoch Jackson, he just takes on offensive linemen like you wouldn't believe, and he's actually super mobile, so I like him a lot. And he's also teammates with 2 other Arkansas targets. So getting the Mansfield Legacy trio is like huge on Arkansas's priority list. And I know for a fact that when Chad Morris first arrived at Arkansas and they didn't have any kind of 2019 big board to speak of because all the kids they were, you know, attacking for SMU, they're not the level of player that you want at Arkansas. So they had to start from the ground up. And I know that the first guy that Chad Morris wanted is Jalen Catalon, and he's a safety at Mansfield Legacy. So getting his teammate on Friday will go a really long way in getting Jalen.
Nice. I also have a soft spot for the short guy, so shout out to him.
Yeah, and another thing is Chad Morris's sister is actually the basketball coach at Mansfield Legacy.
Ah, it's a tangled web we
weave.
Okay, now
gotta use all your connections.
The guy I really want you to tell me about, though, because I just noticed on Twitter that you basically told me I'm wrong, is Camden defensive lineman Stacy Wilkins. He's a 4-star kid, and he just went to, he's like, you know, in high school when you're trying to date 2 girls at once without letting the other one figure it out. He went to Arkansas on like a Friday, right? And then the Saturday
on Friday night,
he went to the OU barbecue.
Yes.
And
so
now he's
Stacy Wilkins.
He's going to decide at the Camden Country Club, right, on Sunday. And I said,
yes.
You don't commit to Oklahoma from the Camden Country Club. To which Nikki replied, some people do. So now my interest is piqued.
Well, Stacy Wilkins is just it's like nothing Arkansas fans have probably ever seen before, unless you're talking about like DGB back in the day committing to what was it, Mizzou, I think, last minute on TV. Well, Stacy Wilkins, he's been, you know, courted by Oklahoma, not even as long as he has been by Arkansas, but the fact that Oklahoma is a top 4 program right now, They have a ton of recruiting steam. They have the Jordan deal. Like, all this stuff is making Oklahoma seem like the hottest program in the nation. So I don't blame Stacy at all, and I really do think it's going to be Oklahoma on Friday. And as a recruiting reporter, I'm probably not even getting a story ready for him for Arkansas, and that's saying something.
Sad news, Arkansas fans.
I know. It's disappointing because I really do think he's going to be big time, and that sucks because obviously you want someone like that to stay in state, but he's also never been the state loyalist. Like, you don't see a whole lot of him repping Arkansas, and so I think that plays into it as well. And another thing is his dad didn't come up with him for the barbecue on Friday at Arkansas, but he was with him at OU on Saturday, and rumor is they might have filmed a little something while they were in Norman. So
I see. Okay, well, Arkansas should have saved their barbecue, sounds like to me.
Yeah, but you can never know with these guys because things change. Like, Oklahoma could decide that they want a more highly rated offensive tackle or whatever and kind of drop him later on. So Arkansas can't afford to, take the foot off the pedal. They have to keep recruiting him as hard as possible, even though they know that he doesn't really want to go to Arkansas at this point.
Sure. Well, you know what? I mean, if Arkansas's finishing in second place to Oklahoma, there's a lot worse places they could be. I mean, safe to say when Brett Bielema was in Fayetteville, they were not the second choice of kids that were going to OU. They were about 22nd. So
exactly. And the offensive line in particular that's the reason why this is going to hurt so much, because Arkansas has already missed on 3 or 4 offensive tackle prospects that they really thought they would get. And they ended up being the number 2 option for all of those guys. And that really sucks. And I think if they didn't have a 4-8 record, they could have got those guys. And so it's just going to take a good season to turn things around for them. And I just hope, Coach Dustin Fry, the offensive line coach, doesn't get slammed too hard because, trying to keep a guy in state and keeping him from going to Oklahoma is one thing, but then you had a kid commit to Texas Tech over Arkansas, and you're like, what? That coach is probably not even going to be there. What are you doing?
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how fans react to Stacy on Friday.
Well, and look, you said it. They went 4-8 a year ago. When Chad and the staff got to Fayetteville, there was not. I mean, they didn't. It's not like they lost a bunch of prospects that Bielema's staff had been working on. I mean, they lost the one kid to Baylor, and kept Connor Nolan and kept Bumper Pool and kept what was left of that class, and then added some pieces that weren't there before, a la Mike Woods, trying to make a late push. They were so far behind the 8 ball. That 18 class was going to be very poor. What they're doing in the 19 class should have people excited. I just hope that my Arkansas people do not get discouraged when the Hogs go, 4-8, 5-7 again this year or worse, because in my opinion, Chad is inheriting an offense that is in no way, shape, or form equipped to run what he wants to run. They look slow. They look stiff. I don't believe in any of the quarterbacks on that roster. There's not much to love at wide receiver. There is a lot to like at running back. Defense looks suspect. The point I'm making is that the Arkansas rebuild is a 3 or maybe even a 4-year deal. It's not like they come in, they're funny on social, they collect this great 19 class, and voila, they're back. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, and the hype is worth a ton, but obviously it's not going to do anything for how they play this year, and people have to keep that in mind. Like I see people now being like, "Oh, they're definitely going to bowl game." I'm like, nothing has changed. Just because recruiting is going really well does not mean they're going to play any better this season. Like,
they'll be going to a bowl game in 2020. That's what this is impacting. It's nothing to do with 2018. I think
they get a solid 5 wins. I do see that happening based on their schedule. Their schedule's not too tough. 6 is going to be a battle for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much have the full. Well, I say that. I mean, look, North Texas coming to Fayetteville is not going to be as easy as people think. Seth Luttrell's got that team going trending in the absolute right direction in what will probably be his last year in Denton. Mason finds a hell of a quarterback, and that team is real dangerous coming to Fayetteville. That being said, their non-conference schedule is as weak as it gets for a Power 5 program, and sure, they can get to 5 wins, but you're right. If they get to 6 wins, they better be throwing Chad Morris and his staff a damn parade in Fayetteville, because 6 wins for that team, there was nothing in the cupboard when they got there. They are creating things out of thin air right now.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of last year's record was the players being unathletic or just not being coached in the proper way. I'm sure. I mean, I've watched all those games since I took over this job, but you've watched them for years. What did you think? Was it the coaching, or was it the players, or was it a terrible mix of both?
Let's see. I want to address this in a way that is not super polarizing. I'm not a massive Brett Bielema fan. I'll put it that way. Brett Bielema, the individual, I think is a swell guy. There was a couple of moments when he went to bat for his players or his team, and I found it to be very endearing. And for about an 18-month span of his coaching of his coaching tenure in Arkansas, he kind of had me. The problem for Brett was that he can't recruit in the SEC. That's the biggest. I mean, you can go back and look at every class he's got. They were good in Florida one year when Randy Shannon was on the staff. That was the Alex Collins year. Aside from that, they really struggled to go into the southern states and get players. They were not ever effective in Texas. They never tried to go into Oklahoma. So the primary problem with Bielema was the fact that he thought he was just going to go get a bunch of really big, awesome offensive linemen, play power football, and beat teams the way that Wisconsin does. But then, they almost went counter to that plan in about year 4, and basically just went aerial attack with it, because that's Dan Enos' game, And look, Dan Enos also a hell of a coach, and Brandon Allen was a good quarterback. It made sense that they were trying to go to the air. They just weren't really equipped to beat teams 45-42, and the style of offense they were trying to play the last couple of years in Fayetteville. That's essentially they were playing a game that was absolutely counter to what they were doing in recruiting. So, and that's why I say Chad and them come in and they want to go up tempo, they want to go fast. And I mean, the spring game, mind you, it was like 12 degrees out, but you could you could tell that last year's SMU team would have beat the brakes off that Arkansas team that showed up in Little Rock for the spring game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see if the quarterback can execute at a higher level and make good decisions. It's going to be a big difference, but we know what it looks like when a pro-style quarterback tries to scramble around a lot. You're going to get sacked with that offensive line, so it's going to be tough to balance that, and they're going to have to really measure out how many runs per game and how many throws per game, and that's going to be a tough balance to find. It's just about this fall camp finding consistency in which guys are going to be your playmakers, and hopefully they step up. I think everyone's really, really hungry for some wins on that team. They're at an SEC school. They expected to be playing at an SEC level, not being at the bottom of, not being in the cellar of the SEC. So they all want to prove that they do deserve to wear that patch on their jersey and all that kind of stuff. The
thing that I think, especially last year's team, found out, and it has such a snowball effect, not just on the team, but then on the fan base. In the SEC West, more than any other division in college football, when things are good, they're good. But when things start to go poorly, it has a way of compounding on itself and creating this snowball effect of negativity, because there is no break in the schedule. I mean, it's just a brutal gauntlet that you have to go through every year. So when you start losing and the confidence starts to slip, it's really hard to get that back. And last year, the team started to lose, the guys kind of became despondent, and then the fan base just stopped showing up, because it really at that point wasn't much that Bielema could say that would inspire faith in the program. I mean, we were too far gone at that point. So There is that, and that'll be no different in 2018. I mean, if this team starts losing, and I think that they will by no fault of the new coaching staff, the fans have got to stay in there with Chad and his guys, because I do believe that they're the right guys to turn the Arkansas program around. But again, at the risk of being repetitive, I just want to reiterate one more time that this is a 3 to 4 year rebuild and nothing less than that. So.
Yeah, because you need a lot of time to get depth, and that's just something that they're really going to struggle with this year.
Especially when
they need more depth all over.
Yeah, and you're changing the style entirely. I mean, which makes it an even more difficult process, I would think. One thing that the Hogs did have plenty of, I will say, when Bielema was in town, was running backs. That backfield was typically pretty loaded with talent, and that's the one position group that I feel like, okay, at least Coach Morris and his staff inherited some talent there. What can you tell us, though, about the running back situation with 2 Doak Walker Award watch list guys and Devwa Whaley and Chase Hayden, and they're adding the star of Last Chance U, Rakeem Boyd, which fantastic depth, and depth at running back is never a problem of any sort, but there is just one ball. So how do you expect the timeshare to shake out back there with Rakeem being new and the staff being new and Whaley and Hayden obviously not being new?
Well, luckily, Morris is really used to running with 2, if not 3, running backs at SMU. He had 2 guys that split the majority of the carries, and he had a really solid third down back. So I think it'll be fine. I think it could be interesting to see how the players react to, when he finally decides which guy is, the one he wants to start, basically. I think Rakeem Boyd, after the season he had in JUCO, is going to expect to come in and play a lot. But, you do have 2 other Doak Walker watch list guys on the team. And Chase Hayden is obviously hungry to return back to what he was doing before he got injured last season. And Devwa, I mean, he had a really good last 3 games of last season, so he was kind of on the come up right there at the end. So a lot of them are trending momentum-wise. It's going to be about consistency and who heats up, really.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a great problem to have, and you're right. They have made a habit of using multiple backs. I will say, I don't think that there's any argument to the fact that this particular staff has not ever had 1, let alone 3 running backs of this caliber on the same team. So that could be fun to watch. But as deep as they are at running back, they're equally as light at wide receiver. And this is an offense that hummed at times with guys like Cortland Sutton and Trey Quinn, and there's just not anybody of that caliber on this roster. So that brings me to the question, are we about to see a run-heavy Chad Morris offense in 2018?
I'm not sure it'll be run-heavy. I think they'll have to balance the 2, because inevitably they will want to open up that passing game. I mean, I imagine that Cole Kelly is going to be the starter, and he can sling the ball. His completion percentage was not that great, but he also doesn't have, Okay, I hear you. I just think they're going to have to keep it pretty balanced, and they're going to try to do the things that they're used to doing, and maybe that's not going to work once they get into the bulk of their conference play, but I think you're going to see, the classic Chad Morris offense that he ran at Clemson and at SMU, at least in the first 3-4 games of the season, and then we'll see how that's working out, and they'll have to adjust game by game based on, the other team's defenses and what they're showing and all that kind of stuff. But that's one of the good parts about Chad Morris's offense, is they can easily adjust those things once they find those receivers that can actually catch the ball. I mean, how tired do you think they are of hearing Cortland Sutton and Trey Quinn's names? Like, it must be so annoying at this point.
You know what? You could be tired of it if you want to, but those 2 were ballers. So show me that.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what?
Right.
And here's the thing. I'll use Cortland in particular as an example. Cortland was not a highly recruited guy. He didn't have a bunch of stars. He came to SMU and they put him at safety. Colorado pulled his offer while he was on his freaking visit there. Like, no one was rolling out the red carpet for Cortland Sutton, and all he did was make himself into a first-round caliber talent. So I don't really want to hear about how many times they've had to hear about Cortland Sutton or whatever. Do something about it. Every receiver on that roster came in more highly touted than Cortland came into SMU. So,
yeah, it's all about how hard they are going to want to work, and I think they are going to want to work hard for Justin Stepp. I mean, he's one of the most likable guys probably in all of college football, to be honest. There's not a person that I've talked to about him that has anything negative to say about him. So if there's a guy that they're going to play for, it's going to be him, or, they're not going to make it. And, Chad wants to free up as many spots on his roster for his guys that he can. So if you're not performing, I expect a lot of attrition next spring.
Yeah, absolutely. And that with any new coaching staff, I think part of what you're almost trying to run guys off as much as you're trying to bring guys in, because you want the right type of guy in your program, and you can't be sure that you've got that when you get there.
Absolutely. And the strength and conditioning coach, what's his name? Drew Carroll, Coach Drew. He, he's a tough guy. So he's one of the best guys that I know of running guys off a team if you don't really belong there. So he'll get that sorted out really quick. And I know that they're putting the metaphorical hammer down on those guys for sure this fall camp.
Yeah, Drew is, he is as well-respected a strength coach as you'll find on a national level. He actually was the strength coach at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, right before I went there for graduate school. So I've been hearing about Coach True from coaches well before I ever had any idea who he was, and then end up meeting him again when he's at SMU and we're doing the All Access last year. And so I walked up to introduce myself and tell that story that I just told, which in retrospect, not that cool of a story really, but I didn't realize it until I was like halfway into it. And he's looking at me like, why are you wasting my time with this story? And yeah, that's my relationship with Coach True.
And that was the end of your friendship.
Point. Yeah, absolutely. That was it. So I was like, cool, man. All right, good to meet you. I'm going to go away now.
To be honest, that's less than mine, and I've known him longer. So good job.
Okay, we've talked a lot of football, but I want you to know that your Instagram is making me real jealous with all your Fayetteville nature pics. I've noticed
that is by far one of the best things about this town. It doesn't have the food that Dallas has, or probably the culture that Houston has, but I'm a nature girl, so I am loving it.
Yeah, I've noticed that you and the pup have been thoroughly enjoying the Greenway Trail and just the great outdoors in general up there.
Yep, and, that's all about to go away this season. I am not going to have any time for that, but I'm glad I got to do it this summer at least.
At least you can take it in from afar. There's not much more beautiful than Northwest Arkansas in the fall.
Nope, and, that's a huge selling point for them as long as they can get kids to campus, because once they do, they're like, wow, I never expected this in Arkansas. And
sure.
It's all about marketing and perception. And that's one of the biggest draws that this staff can sell.
The problem, though, with just not the Ozarks, but with Fayetteville, Northwest Arkansas in general, particularly in the fall, is the number of bike riders that are on the trail. And I feel like, first of all, what's your position on bike riders? Cyclists, whatever they want to be called. I don't know. People on bicycles.
Well, I have brought a bike to Fayetteville, and I have not used it once. So I'm not much of a biker myself, but good for them, I guess. I'm more of a runner.
I feel like there's three categories. I feel like there are three categories of bike riders. I'm qualified to speak on this as much as anyone because I'm from Fayetteville and I live in Austin, Texas. There are three types. There's the dude who thinks he's going to qualify for the Tour de France and sees fit to take blind corners at like 60 miles an hour in the name of self-improvement. There is the recreational bike rider who can barely keep the thing upright and always kind of looks like they're going to crash into you head on for no reason. And, and third, there's the BMX pro who's always way too jacked up to be hitting the trails with his or her, I should say, gnarly off-road tires. And of the three, I would love to know which you think is the most obnoxious.
Definitely the number one. Like, you need to relax. You know how much money you're probably spending? So many other things you could be doing that, isn't physically exerting. And maybe that's just me.
No,
but,
it's not. It's me too. I agree.
I would rather go post up at a bar for a few hours and watch some sports and stuff rather than spend. How much are those bikes? Like
a lot. I don't know.
Ridiculous.
Thousands.
Ridiculous.
And then you got all the gear. Plus, you look kind of ridiculous in your little onesie thing that they wear. And man.
And those tan lines.
The tan line, and they want the tan lines. The tan lines are cool for whatever reason. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And see, and the other thing is, I'm responsible I don't like them on the trail or on the road, because if I'm on the road, now I'm responsible for not committing vehicular manslaughter, but it's my problem, not theirs. I have to worry about it, not them, which is backwards. Yeah. And if I'm on the trail, God forbid I be walking my dog and that leash get a little too long, because, oh my God, that's going to be a collision. It's frustrating, Nikki. That's what I'm saying.
I was on a trail and I let my dog off the leash. It was the middle of the day on a Wednesday. The blessings of my job. I can go hiking at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. But I let Zeke off the leash, and there's a freaking BMX biker going down the mountain, and Zeke's just standing there still in the middle of the trail watching this guy move closer and closer and closer. And I'm like, Zeke, freaking move. And I guess this guy must have been a really, really good biker, because he's so smoothly, not even phased by the dog that he's about to hit, just goes, whoop, moves right around him. And I was like, wow, that is the first, that could have been an EMT kind of situation 5 miles into a hike, but props to that guy.
Yeah, props to that guy, but the problem is 90% of them are not that guy, but they think they're that guy.
Exactly. I thought my dog was about to die.
Oh my God. Okay, that's enough about that, because if I stay on the subject, I'm going to alienate anyone and everyone who's listening who's ever ridden a bike, and I don't want to do that. But you did mention that the food in Fayetteville...
Yeah, they've already tuned out.
No. They're here for this. I promise. And this next subject I'm equally as passionate about, because you mentioned that the food in Fayetteville is not up to par with the food in Dallas, Texas. And to that, Nikki, I have to say, you're just not doing it right.
Oh, Kolby. There's no subject that I'm more passionate about at this moment, because I've been eating Chipotle and Panera Bread for 3 months at this point.
I said, you're not doing it right. There's not the volume
What
of
am I
options,
supposed to be eating? It's all fried and barbecue and those grilled cheeses, though.
I've never even had barbecue in Fayetteville. Listen, I'll get a few tips. All right, first of all, if you're gonna, this wasn't even gonna give you this tip, but if you're gonna eat barbecue, you need to do it in Kansas City, Missouri. That's the only place to eat barbecue.
Missouri.
Second of all, damn good pies on the square. But get the pink sauce. Get the pink sauce. Okay?
Pink sauce?
Yep. It's red and white
Nothing
mixed,
natural
obviously.
is pink.
No, it's good. It's marinara and whatever the white sauce is. They mix it together. It's got a little kick to it. Highly recommend. Out of this world. And my third tip would be, do not sleep on wasabi. I know you like sushi, and I know a sushi spot in Arkansas might not feel like the most inviting option, but you need to go to wasabi.
I've actually been there.
Okay, and why aren't you don't like it?
And it was okay.
Okay.
And come on, Kolby, you know how far away it is from the coast? I can't trust that.
That's what airplanes are for.
I just don't trust it.
Airplanes and ice.
I'm going to start petitions for my favorite restaurants to get them to open up in Fayetteville, because I honestly think they would do well. I'm not sure how a brand new restaurant would do, but if it's already a successful chain elsewhere, you've been to Bread Zeppelin in Dallas, right? I just talked to their owner, and I was like, Fayetteville is your next spot. I swear this college town would love you. And I guess it was too small a market, but whatever.
Too small a market. Listen, we don't do chains in Fayetteville, okay? That's where you're going wrong. We don't do chains. Have you been to Ham and Trees?
Yes, Ham and Trees was very good. I've tried 4 of their different grilled cheeses, and they were all pretty fire. But, you know, I don't have a lot of time to work out. I'm, like, on the message boards answering people's questions literally, like, 18 hours a day because I'm a OCD and I can't just, like, leave it there if I know someone, like, asked me a question. Even if I'd have answered it 10 times, I still got to do it. I'm trying to eat healthy so that I don't have to work out as much because there's no time for all of that. Like, I'm not taking care of myself. These Arkansas fans, they just want more and more, and I'm just trying to keep up.
Nikki is sacrificing herself for the betterment of the Arkansas fan base. What's not to love about that?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, on that note, I'll let you go. Get back to your message boards or your gym time or whatever it is that you're doing besides eating the phenomenal food that exists in Fayetteville. But when I come up for a game in October, just know that I'm taking you to Damn Good Pies. We're getting that pink sauce, and it's going to be amazing.
Okay, I'm in. Let's do it.
All right. Nikki Chavanelle, the voice of the Razorbacks on Rivals. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thoroughly appreciated your company.
Thanks, Kolby.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you. Good to talk to you.
All right, so a quick scouting report on Tyler. Very complete back. Shows great patience at the point of attack. Catches the ball well out of the backfield. Explodes through daylight. I mean, name it. What do you want in a running back? This guy brings that to the table. He shows good power as a runner. Forget about arm tackling him. But he will also utilize a little hezzy, a little jump cut to make a defender look real silly. Averaged 145 all-purpose yards per game a season ago. Complete with an offer list that looks like the who's who of the Big Ten, basically, with everybody from Nebraska to Michigan State involved. But about a month ago, he committed to Iowa, instantly becoming one of the top players of their 19 class. This is a question you're going to get about 100 times between now and signing day, but what was it about Iowa that really sold you, a running back from Georgia?
I took my visit up there, and when I went up there, it felt like home. And then I'm really interested in, like, kids as, like especially me. So here we have, like, a Happy Feet camp when us as football players, we just go and chill with them. So they have, like, a children's hospital, and they wait for them before the game, so that really touched me. And I also have a teammate that's going up there, Jaden.
Yeah, I want to ask you about him. So Jaden McDonald, teammate from a year ago, already at Iowa. What has he told you about the program?
I mean, he told me he loves it. He told me there's not a program that will go in there and let you mess around, play around. It's really like the school I'm at now. It's just, workouts are a little more intense because it's just a higher level. But he just said everything's going good and he loves everything's flowing.
Good. So the Iowa coaching staff has compared you to Akram Wadley. Your current offensive coordinator, Steven Jackson, has brought your name up alongside guys like Le'Veon Bell and LaShawn McCoy. Those are pretty incredible comps. But who do you think your game resembles the most?
I think Le'Veon Bell and a little bit of LaShawn McCoy, because I really just take the time just to study them out. That's the only reason why. I really admire them, so I just look at their tapes and just study what they do and try to reflect it in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I see both of them. And I mentioned earlier, it's two of the moves that I see you make a lot when I watch your tape. I mean, obviously, if there's daylight, forget about it. But a lot of times you'll use that little hesitation, that Le'Veon Bell, that like uber patience, where most running backs would be afraid to be that patient. Is that you pick that up by watching him, or is that just a natural move that you've always been comfortable making?
I mean, I first saw it from him, but like my trainer helped me work on that, so it's kind of both.
And then the other comp that we just mentioned, Shady McCoy with that jump cut. I mean, it's cartoonish, and I at minimum in a 5-minute highlight tape, you'll pull that move 4 times. So same question. That jump cut's something that you just have developed over time?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think Iowa is incredibly excited to get you up there. The fan base for sure. Obviously, there was a really great article written about you on Rivals.com. I I guess about a week ago. Describe the relationship that you have, though, with head coach Kirk Ferentz.
Me and Coach Ferentz have a good relationship. I mean, when I went up there, he sat down, brought me through the statistics of the school and what the school has become. He's a great guy. He's a family dude. That's very important to me. Takes care of you, loves his players, and he knows how to win.
Yeah, no question. All the above. All right, let's talk about North Gwinnett. You guys dropped your season opener to Walton last year, and then you rattled off 14 straight wins, including a 35-28 victory over Grayson on the way to a state title. What was the moment like, though, in the locker room after that loss to Walton in Game 1?
Locker room was crazy. I mean, we stood in there for almost an hour after the game, just dancing and screaming in the locker room, listening to music. And we had a couple coaches come in there and dance with us. The atmosphere was just amazing.
Yeah. After you won the title.
Yes, sir.
What I want to know, though, is what it felt like at your lowest point after you guys lost to Walton in the season opener. Obviously, you come in with state championship aspirations and you drop Game 1. What was that locker room like?
Mm-hmm. We went to the game thinking we were gonna just blow those dudes out. Then, as the game goes on, Jaden got out at the first drive with a concussion, so that hurt us. Then we couldn't really do nothing on both sides of the ball. Really, it was just really struggle. And then when they just blocked our field goal, it was just devastating. Everybody going on the way back home was just a solid ride back.
Yeah, I'm sure. But what it did allow you was a season-long kind of redemption theme where you guys had that initial setback, and I don't know that it became the theme for you guys inside of the locker room, but at least on the outside looking in, it felt like the entire year after that loss was basically you guys getting even for that setback.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So
yes, sir, it was. So
this year, though, spoiler alert, you guys are going to be in a lot of people's top 25s coming into the year. You're going to be ranked in our top 25 coming into the year. So now you're the hunted. How has your offseason preparation been any different going into your senior year, knowing that the target is now going to be squarely on your back?
It's definitely going to be a challenge, but offseason workouts, it's just more intense. I feel like nobody works as hard as we do. Coach Stewart does a good job of working us, make sure we're focused, and that winning the state championship is the past and the future is winning another one.
So, for those of you that don't know, North Gwinnett, the second game of the year will be the final game of the inaugural Freedom Bowl, presented by Battle, Labor Day weekend, Greater Atlanta, Georgia. Every game is going to be streamed live on FloFootball.com and the Flo Sports app. But Tyler, what do you know about Wekiva, Florida?
I don't really know nothing much. I just heard that. I heard a couple of my coaches saying they have a really good defense. They got a few guys that's going to a big Power 5 school, and that's really about it. But other than that, I just heard they have a really good defense.
They do, but I hear you guys have a really good offense.
Yes, sir.
All right, I want to wrap this up with a thing we call 20-ish questions. And
okay.
It's not really going to be 20, but we'll see how far we go. Favorite video game,
right.
Madden, FIFA, 2K, or Fortnite?
I'm going to have to go with FIFA.
Who do you roll with on FIFA?
Brazil.
Okay. All right, I like that. So you play that fast up and down style on FIFA.
Yes, sir.
It's a lot like you play running back.
Yes, sir.
All right, what's your favorite pair of shoes, Tyler?
I'm going to have to go with my, I like the suede Pumas.
Classic choice, no question. What is the weirdest thing that has happened to you during your recruitment?
During my recruitment? Okay. This is a hard one. I ain't really had nothing like weird happen to me, but like I had a couple schools play me, if that's what you're asking.
No, but feel free to elaborate.
Yeah, like I've had a couple schools saying that like they'll offer me, come down spring, come look at me and just see what I do from there, offer me, and then next thing you know, I don't hear from them until I start picking up more offers, and then they go and say they went on another back to see what they're gonna do about me and stuff like that. That's really about it.
You don't have to name the schools, but are those schools in the Southeastern Conference? I'd be curious to know that.
I've had I'm not gonna name the schools, but it's really the schools that really most play me is a few in the ACC.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'd read something about, and I want to say it was from your offensive coordinator now at North Gwinnett, who was saying that a lot of programs in that part of the country are so focused on measurables. And you're not a small dude. You're 5'10", what, 195?
190.
Yeah, so I guess they're looking for 6'2", I don't know, but he was saying that they were so into like height and weight that they were kind of stringing you along. So I'm not totally surprised to hear that, but based on your tape, I do think that they're going to eventually regret that. That was Tyler Goodson. Now let's hop into the interview I did with Jordan Yates, right about the time that he explains to me why he chose Georgia Tech.
First of all, it's a great school academically, and I take academics seriously. My family does, so that was a big factor. Also, how close it is to home. I mean, I can get there from where I am right now in about 30 minutes with no traffic, and I got a huge family that all likes to come to my games, so they'll be able to do that for the next 4 years as well. And then, of course, the offense, I feel like I'm a great fit. They use their quarterbacks in a lot of different ways, throwing the ball and running the ball, which is what I like to do. And lastly, I really just felt at home there. I mean, I've got a great relationship with coaches, especially Coach Candido, who's the quarterback coach. So it just felt like the perfect fit for me.
Okay, right on. You know, a lot of guys, I think, look at that offense at Georgia Tech and they shy away because they want to throw it around. And you're adept as a passer, but that didn't worry you. Why?
Well, I mean, really, people don't really give Georgia Tech as much credit as they deserve in the passing game. Like, they still have a lot of concepts that spread teams do, and they look to throw it about 18 to 20 times a game. And ideally, they would like for their quarterback to throw for 2,000 and run for 1,000. And like that's when they feel they can be the most successful, and that's when they've had the most success in the past.
Right on. Okay. Well, I need you to be really honest with me here because Georgia Tech finally got rid of those Russell Athletic uniforms during this past offseason and made a huge upgrade to Adidas. What I need to know is if Georgia Tech was still wearing those Russell uniforms from like 1998, would you be headed to, say, Boca Raton instead?
No. I wouldn't let that change my mind, but I mean, I tell you what, that definitely is feels a lot better to be playing in Adidas and Russell.
Doesn't it? They're pretty good looking uniforms. I got a little sneak peek at them thanks to Twitter, and they look nice.
Yeah, I mean, new uniforms, new locker room, it's all really coming together over there.
And the locker room looked great. I saw that too. But you have an issue with your uniforms when even Paul Johnson is like, "Yo, we gotta get a little younger here."
Yeah, that's when you know he's as old school as it gets.
I mean, I've been watching your tape now for a few weeks, but it honestly didn't even occur to me until a few days ago that you are the nephew of former North Carolina Tar Heel and NFL quarterback TJ Yates.
Yep, I am.
What's your relationship like with TJ? What kind of role has he played in molding you into the type of quarterback that you are?
I mean, we're pretty close. I grew up watching him play. I think when I was born, he was about 14, so I think I watched him his whole high school career, whole college career, NFL career. And then, we work out together a lot. So a lot of people say our throwing motion looks the exact same, and how we finish our throws looks the exact same.
It does. Yeah.
I don't really see. But
No, it does.
Yeah.
For anybody listening to this that has not yet watched Jordan, go check out the highlight tape because it does. You look just like TJ. When I realized who he was, who you were, and who he was, I was like, oh my God, it makes sense. Now I know exactly where that throwing motion came from.
And it's funny because that's about the only thing that's similar with us. We're completely different besides that.
Yeah, safe to say TJ probably wasn't running the option for Georgia Tech. So.
Nah, probably not. But yeah, we have a really good relationship. We're close. We talk about it every day. He helps me a lot, especially with like just being a quarterback, like not necessarily just throwing the ball, but preparing for games, being a leader, watching film, all that type of stuff.
That's great. Yeah, it has to. I mean, I feel like every great quarterback has some type of an influence from another great quarterback at some point along the way. For that to be your uncle has to be pretty special.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I've looked at him my whole life.
You guys went 9-3 last year, but you lost your 3 games by totals of 8, 5, and 3 points. Could have easily been 12-0 and advancing. That had to keep you up at night, no?
Yeah, it definitely stings a little bit knowing how close we were, and all 3 of those games we were a score away. But I mean, those are all great teams we lost to, and it just made us more hungry for this year, so it worked out for the better.
Yeah, I mean, safe to say that what was it, Alabama last year that said don't waste a failure. So for you guys, that has to be a nice little added bit of motivation coming into this year, knowing that you could have very easily been state champs.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely gives us confidence and really had us focused going in the summer. I think we've had a great summer to get ready for the season.
Milton High is going to host the inaugural Freedom Bowl event presented by Battle during Labor Day weekend this year, and every game will be streamed live on FloFootball.com and the Flo Sports app. What does it mean to you guys to own an event like that?
I mean, it's really special. I think the next couple of years, nationally, you'll really start to be hearing about the Freedom Bowl as one of the top events in the country. Got a lot of great teams in this year, especially Cardinal Gibbons. So, I mean, it's really cool to be a part of that, and especially just to host it also.
And you mentioned Cardinal Gibbons. That's who Milton will meet in the showcase game on Friday, August 31st at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. What do you know so far about Cardinal Gibbons?
I mean, they're like most Florida teams. They're fast. They're quick. I know Nick Scalzo pretty well. Been with him at a couple camps. He's a really good player. So, I mean, we're definitely going to have to get ready to play against him. And I haven't really gotten too much into them because we still got 2 games before that. But I know they're going to be a tough challenge for us.
No question. All right, last question, most important question. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're on a 5-hour road trip. You're in a car with Milton head coach Adam Clack, Georgia Tech's head coach Paul Johnson, and Florida Atlantic head coach Lane Kiffin. You got to pick one of them.
Oh, wow.
One of them has to DJ for the entire drive. Who you got?
Oh man. I feel like Lane Kiffin's probably more like in the now with music. Like, I don't know what Coach Johnson listens to. 'Cause I don't know him all that well yet, but I just don't know if it really matched up with what I listen to.
Uh-huh.
And then I know in the weight room when we play music, Coach Clack does not know any of the songs, so I'm gonna go with Lane Kiffin.
Probably a good choice. All due respect to Coach Clack and Coach Johnson, of course.
Of course.
All right, man. I know you're a busy dude. Once again, I appreciate you taking the time very much. I'll get you out of here.
No problem.
Once again, Jordan and Milton High School will face Cardinal Gibbons at the Freedom Bowl Friday, August 31st. We'll have it for you live on FloFootball and the Flo Sports app. If you don't know, now you know. Jordan, thanks again for taking the time, man. I'll see you in Atlanta.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. See you then.
Yeah, take care. That was Jordan Yates, and that is all for me. But before I go, the one thing I always forget to do is tell you guys to subscribe, like, comment, whatever the things are that you do to a podcast on the Apple podcast thing. Do those things to this podcast, but only if you're nice. If you're not nice, then just forget I said anything. FloFootball.com right now. We have the FCS Flow 25 that was released a couple of weeks ago. This morning, the FBS Flow 25 was released as well. In addition to that, we have a pretty cool little back and forth between David Sills and Will Greer about not only David Sills' journey to West Virginia to this point in his career, but also just the rapport and the trust that he shares with his quarterback based on his background as a former quarterback, and not just a quarterback, but a 13-year-old. People thought he was going to be a prodigy quarterback. So there's that. Hit me up on Twitter if you want to, at Kolby Paxton. I've got like 37 followers right now, so I'm tracking pretty good. I should be at 100 by the first game of the year, I'm thinking. And speaking of that game, go check out the live event schedule at FloFootball. We've got the Freedom Bowl. I've been talking about that. We also have the Battle on the Border. That's going to get you like 75-ish of the top 500 players in the country right there on a bunch of really, really good teams. And then we get into college football. New Mexico State, UMass, the Big Sky, Southland Conference. Our offering is much improved relative to a year ago. We're really excited about it, and we hope you guys will enjoy it as well. That's it for me. I'm going to shut up now. Goodbye.
Hit that line, keep on going. Drop it down to the floor. I give a cheer, ride, never fear, ride. Shout it, putting on the show. Hit that line, keep on going. Drop it down to the floor. I give a cheer, ride, never fear, ride. Shout it, putting on the show. I woke up this morning on the floor beside my bed with that queasy in my stomach and the padding in my head. Trophy from a night out on the city streets, along with the 10-cent piece in my bed sheets. 2 Adderall, chasing with the Kolby. Get on your razor kit, yeah, let's get out of here. It's Saturday morning, I can smell the barbecue and hear that drum line rat-a-tat. Boom, boom. The scene is so sweet, girls with the piggy cheeks. Fine folks tailgating, serving cold drinks. Blows my mind how she got into those shores. She got that Hermione magic, Hogwarts. Got that Harry Potter flow, and I'm on that Muggle madness. Paper planes, the airliners, face on cannabis. Whoever thought a pig nose could be so glamorous? Pigs do we, yeah, life is so fabulous. Hit that line, keep on going. Drop it down to the floor. I give a cheer, ride, never fear, ride. Shout it, putting on the show. Hit that line, keep on going. Drop it down to the floor. I give a cheer, ride, never fear, ride. Shout it, putting on the show. I walk up the like, hey, where you been? Azkaban, but nah, I'm back in. So pour your drinks tall, let me hear your hog call. You get it in, hit that line, no foul ball. Around here we go hard like diamonds. A slip up, you get ice like Brightons. Yeah, we gonna party. So break bottles, take a shot like Scotty. Attention car rollers, sound your Van Horns. The Red Sea is rising, the color we adorn. We going ham like Hamlin, Kenny. Now I'd rather go Bacon Dean Jimmy. Drop the sugar, coming back with a sweet tooth. Gotta ask yourself, what would Willy Wonka do? Yeah, we get nutty like a baby Ruth. So hit that line, oink, oink, so we pig woo.